The dictionary definition of rare is stated as this: occurring far apart in time, unusual or uncommon. And when we hear the word rare, our brains check out, and we automatically think that this could never happen to me. But not once in that definition does it say the word impossible. Okay, coming back to that in a minute. I'm assuming that many of you are not familiar with IBC. And if you think you are, you're probably thinking of IBS, which is irritable bowel syndrome. The two are very different, but equally as hard to talk about. IBC is short for Inflammatory Breast Cancer, and it is so rare that society deems it as unimportant, because we are all a little bit guilty of not fully caring or understanding about something until it is directly affecting us. And that's exactly how I felt. I had never heard of it, didn't know anything about it, and therefore didn't care. Until November of 2016, when my mom was diagnosed. IBC is an extremely rare form of breast cancer that makes up only 1% of the entire population and makes up only about 5% of all breast cancer diagnoses. It is a cancer of the lymphatic system, meaning that it will always attack the lymph nodes but seeks refuge in the layers of skin on the breast, which makes it very aggressive and seemingly undetectable through normal mammogram or blood work. It is a breast cancer that consists of no lumps and no common warning signs. Just a rash, some discoloration, and pain that will occur quickly in the span of about 3 days to a week. And although it may just simply be a rash that can be cured with a few creams or antibiotics, if it has not drastically improved in about 3 days, then you should seek the help of a specialist because there's a chance something is wrong. My mom's story started with a small rash on her left breast, and we didn't think much of it because why would we? It's just a rash. Then some time went on and my mom developed a dull pain in the same breast. So, being a little concerned, she did what anyone would do and went to our family doctor. And he assured us that it was just a case of the wrong bra size. So we went and had her fitted for new bras. No change, new doctor. Another routine checkup from a second doctor assured us that it was simply a sunburn, which made sense at the time because we live in Texas, which is known for its blistering heat. Just try and stay out of the sun. And if you do go out, either cover up or apply lots of sunscreen. Easy enough, right? No change, new doctor. And by this time, my mom had developed a little bit of fear, but it was not enough to push the doctors for more answers because, after all, it was just a rash. Another checkup from a third doctor assured us that all it took to rid her of this pesky rash that had now transformed into a much bigger one was a simple change in diet, which kind of forced my family to change our eating habits and go for the healthier options at the grocery store, which didn't go over well with my 7-year-old sister, Daisy May. But there was still no change, and by that time, that dull pain turned into an almost unbearable one that spread from her left breast, down her arm, and all throughout the left side of her body. So you know how everyone tells you never to look up your symptoms online because the results are always way worse than your slight sore throat or cold? Well, my mom did anyway, and it saved her life. She took to the internet, and what she found was devastating because on that website, the computer screen flashed the words inflammatory breast cancer. And a sense of panic overcame her, but was not enough to provide permanent fear because, after all, we had had 3 other doctors assure us that she was fine. So a couple more months went by, and we returned to our primary doctor with our new concerns. And he laughed. I have been in this profession for years, and I have never had a case of IBC with any of my patients. I assure you that is not what it is. It is just too rare. But what do we remember from the definition I previously stated? Rare does not mean impossible. So my mom was not convinced. This was not just a typical rash that would go away in a matter of days. It had already been months, and it was excruciatingly painful. So she went and had a mammogram done. It came back clear. She had some blood work, all normal. So what was the cause of this rash and pain? We then sought out the help of a specialist, an oncologist from Baylor Scott & White Hospital in Dallas. She took one look at my mom's condition and sent her in for an emergency biopsy. And that biopsy confirmed what the mammogram could not. My mom had stage 4 inflammatory breast cancer. In those months she spent fighting and pushing the doctors to do more tests, the cancer was spreading rapidly through her body, affecting not only her breasts, but her lymph node, liver, and bones. The months after my mom was diagnosed, the house was silent. The only noise heard were the soft sobs of each one of my family members in different rooms of the house, because no one could bear to speak to each other, and no one wanted to come to the realization that in a few years my mom might not be with us. When my mom was diagnosed, she said it was as if her whole body went numb, because the only thing going through her mind was the words on that computer screen that flashed the words, "No survivors." Every single case of stage 4 inflammatory breast cancer has been fatal. And the reason that is not only because it is aggressive and quick to kill everything in its path, but because no one knows about it. According to the Inflammatory Breast Cancer Research Foundation, the treatment options for IBC are pretty common with other forms of cancer: targeted chemotherapies, radiation treatments, and surgery if that option is available. And by that I mean, if the cancer has spread to numerous parts of the body, like my mom's case, surgery is virtually useless. The only surgery my mom had to undergo was a full oophorectomy, which removed her ovaries and tubes, because that is the part of the body that produces a lot of the female sex hormone, estrogen. And my mom's cancer is estrogen receptive, or ER/PR positive, which means that the estrogen ultimately feeds the cancer, so the surgery was to prevent any unnecessary reason why the cancer could spread. And we had already gone through countless hours waiting in treatment, holding my mom's hand as the medicine burned through her body, killing both good and bad cells. And weeks of this went by, and we all knew that what was next was far more frightening than the original diagnosis. It was the appointment to see if the treatment had been working. And we waited for what felt like an eternity, and we finally received a phone call that would change the course of everything. Because it was working. The cancer had disappeared from all parts of my mom's body except the liver. So today, she remains on an oral chemotherapy which acts as an estrogen blocker and keeps the cancer in her liver at bay. And she also has to work to keep her weight at a healthy level, because that too can cause the cancer to flare up and attack all over again. But overall, her health is improving and she is living her life to the fullest. You see, the doctor gave my mom a prognosis of 3 to 5 years of life. And we are making the most of them. We go on trips as a family, we document moments that make us smile, and we keep each other as our number one priority. And already, she has become an advocate with her work through Love is Greater Than Cancer, by talking to local people in our community and local health professionals who can learn from her PET scans and biopsy results. She has also been featured in several news stories and magazine articles all across the world. News stories that have been spread from near and far, and her local news story has even won an Emmy Award. Because if just one more person learns about IBC, it can spark a chain reaction of people advocating their health and the health of others. Take the story of Kate, for example. Kate is a woman who was sitting at home watching TV when my mom's news story went live. She noticed that she was having similar symptoms with my mom, but the doctors had already pushed her fears of the rare disease aside. A few days later, we received a Facebook message from Kate telling us that she went back to the doctor and pushed for her own answers. And she was diagnosed with stage 3C inflammatory breast cancer, which is one stage before stage 4 and suggests that the cancer has spread to her lymph nodes and nowhere else. My mom having the courage to speak up about her experience with IBC, and Kate having the courage to go back and fight, gave her a few more days on this earth than my mom was given. And who knows how many other people went to speak to their doctors. And that is powerful. And that is using this tragedy for something good. But now I want you to hear it from my mom herself.
I had no idea the response that I would get, and it's been kind of shocking, to say the least. It's not easy to talk about something that is that raw and scary. Once I started talking about my journey, I realized that the journey is no longer about me. That now it's about everybody that comes after me. And I just want to help them. I still have a ton of hope and a very strong faith. I'm nowhere near stopping my fight, but to think that I can maybe help somebody in theirs, or even better, prevent someone from having to go through what I'm going through, makes me feel like all this is in a weird way worth it. You sort of go through life sort of wondering what's your purpose? Trying to be the best mom, the best wife, the best daughter, the best friend. So this is a new role for me, and I'm gonna do the best that I can. That makes me feel really good. That's why I did it. That's why I spoke and put myself out there, is for that somebody.
And I want to carry on that legacy and pass on the message that when it comes to you and your health, you fight for answers when you feel like there is something wrong. Because the only person who knows what you are feeling is you. You are your own advocate. And I know it is tough to argue with professionals, but even they make mistakes. And we are not angry with the doctors who misdiagnosed my mom in the beginning, because it was an issue of unawareness, not lack of caring. But even then, you must speak up and fight for your life because it could potentially save it. There is a known barrier between institution and intuition, and people tend to be afraid when the institution is telling them that no, you are fine, there is no need to refer you to a specialist. But speak up and have a voice. Life is too precious to be second-guessing and not following your intuition. Go with your gut and listen to what your body is telling you. And yes, it is frustrating to think that if we had just caught it a few months earlier, there would not nearly be as much heartache. But then again, I would not be given the chance to stand up here in front of all of you and speak about the important issue of self-advocacy. So speak up. And when they try and tell you that it is just too rare, look them straight in the eyes and say, but rare does not mean impossible. Thank you.